I have gotten one of the most amazing books I've ever seen. It seems like one of those books you should have had when you were in high school or college or sometime before the world has come to pieces as it now has. And this is not political, it's more like global. This book is called Lessons from Cats for Surviving Fascism. So that title should tell you this is about more than cats, but something we all absolutely categorically must read and talk about with our friends, our family, our children, our grandparents. Stewart Brittlestar Reynolds is very famous Canadian. He's from Ontario, Canada. This book is really tiny, see, so you don't have to be stressed. Oh my God, it's so big, I can't read it. Stewart, what I love about this book is like the art of war, which many of us have read, like to learn how to win at tennis or
Sure.
pickleball.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with war. And yet, your book, which really does take inspiration from cats and the way they interact with us, is about what happens when fascism is here or looms. And I think that it's, is it about politics or is it about global survival as a
I
country with an identity?
It's a little bit about both, kind of, but I think the larger message speaks to the idea that if someone is trying to control you, here are some good ways that I picked up from cats to avoid being controlled and making sure that you're making decisions that you want to make and doing the things that you want to do and what's in the best interest of the pride, so to speak. So yeah, it's a bit of both. It was I looked around what was happening in the world and I thought to myself, gosh, there seems to be like a real sort of need for a resistance, as it were, something to sort of make sure that things don't just the bad guys don't get too easy of a job. And I thought cats are jerks, and cats are the perfect jerks to be model themselves as resistors. If you ever tried to put anything on a cat, it's very
Like a
difficult.
collar. You have a
Yeah,
whole chapter on, yeah,
exactly.
why a collar makes no sense. I think there was a time in America where everybody was worried that we would be microchipped. And then they were worried no, really, it's oh my
Yeah,
God, when they give you a vaccine, they're microchipping you. Excuse me, are you
yeah,
nuts?
yeah.
But there were people that thought it could happen, and they're not wrong. In truly dictatorship countries, I'm sure they do that and worse. Or people worry, well, or they should worry more about their phone. Everyone can,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
the people in power can track you in all kinds of ways. And then there are people that go to the airport now and have to delete all their social media in case they
Mm.
use a word or a phrase that would identify them as being a problem. So I think that feral cats have it figured out. They get fed by humans if they can become part of a colony. They
Yeah,
pick the right humans, the ones who TNR them, which is okay. It's no fun for a cat to be trapped and neutered and have their ear tip chopped off. But at least they're
sure.
put back with their friends and somebody provides them with at least one meal a day.
Yeah.
So, what is it that they've done to resist being dominated by human controllers that we
I
can
mean,
learn from?
I think there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like the book itself has 11 chapters and talks about things about staying unpredictable and making sure you nap and all that kind of stuff. And it all seems very silly. But at the same time, the more when I started writing this book, I wrote it as kind of, oh, this is a funny exercise to write this really sort of short book. And I love short books. My whole career for the past 12-ish years has been based on creating short form content on social media. So my attention span is shot. So the idea of writing, and I've published another book before this, and it just about killed me because it's about four times the length. And I
Just
thought
still short.
it's still short, exactly for people with a working attention span. It's still very short.
Yes.
But I thought, well, I'll write something really as a quick exercise and something that'll be fun to do. And so I did that. But then the more I got into it, I was like, gosh, there is lots of stuff. Like even just down to the nap time thing. That idea of how the book said that your nap isn't just rest; it's rebellion. That idea of I will deal with you on my terms and you're not going to exhaust me. I think that's anyone who's trying to control any group that's trying to control another group of people or anyone who's trying to control another person. One of the tactics they use is exhaustion, to bombard you, to overwhelm you, and you need to find those times to rest and recharge so that you can be at your best. And I think that was eye-opening to realize all these silly things I had noted about cats. It was like, well, this actually makes sense. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Hopefully it's good.
Well, I think it's the reason I'm celebrating the book, besides the fact that it's fun and funny, is that I think that by not addressing what's going on globally politically, what's being done to people in the name of fill in the blank is so un-American in terms of what
Oh,
Americans
completely.
thought of themselves as. And the fact that you live in a country where there's conversation about annexing you and Greenland as a, and it's very hard not to think if anyone has a historical perspective, and a lack of that means we're all doomed, is you look at what the true king, if you will excuse the word, of fascists did, Hitler, where
Hmm.
you start small. You start to change what people are allowed to do. You let armed guards, or in our case in America now, masked thugs who look like they're from the Mexican cartel or some dark country someplace where we go, God, we're so lucky. That doesn't happen in America. People in black costumes with their faces covered don't
Hmm.
just grab citizens off the street or grab people off the street because they don't fit in some way.
Hmm.
And yet it's happening. So I think that by not acknowledging that this is a problem for everybody, it doesn't matter what you believe in, because in the end of the day, you are being manipulated and controlled, which is something that cats, as you write about, have figured out how to avoid and evade. And we all have to be more alert, because if you look back to what happened in Germany, and anyone who hasn't been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., I hope that doesn't get closed by
Hmm.
those who don't want you to learn from history. But it should be a required visit. You have to understand that it started really small. People were crabby, they were scared. The things weren't going well economically. Their standing in society had been somehow undermined by they didn't know what. So there was finger pointing. And then people's rights became slowly eroded. And the other citizens, those of us that didn't have, let's say, an opinion, did nothing. Doing nothing, as you write about in the book, is not acceptable. You have to be a quiet resistor. You have to find a way to not let this wash over you and numb you to what's happening. It's really dangerous. We can't look back in history and say, wow, they did just what the people in Germany did in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. We can't do that. We have to be smarter than that.
I completely agree. I think it's too easy for society, current day society, to just be like the boiling frog, the frog being boiled to
Oh,
death.
wow.
It's the idea of just not worrying about things because it doesn't affect you specifically.
Yes.
It doesn't affect you,
Yes.
so it doesn't bother
Yes.
me. So what's the point? I think you have to realize that we don't live. No one lives in a bubble. No man is an island. No woman is an island.
Yes.
And everything when things go start to get bad for some other group of people, it will make things bad for you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will eventually. And then all of a sudden it'll be too late to do anything about it if you don't do anything about it now. And it's the old saying of the it's not it's I guess it's somewhat cliched, but it's true of saying to be ignorant is to be complicit. And I think it's accurate. I think it's very accurate. And it's important to be I think we're at a stage now where globally where we can do small actions that will have powerful results. There's things that we can do to be resistors without being resistors is a very dramatic and romantic word.
Right. Yes. Well said. It is.
Yeah, and it's lovely. That's really cool. However, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so sure, that sounds great. However, the reality of it is we know it's about making decisions about who you do business with, where you do business. It's all those types of things like that don't require you to dress like Han Solo, even though it would be cool to dress like Han Solo.
And you don't have to carry a sword. I guess this is really an important thing. The phrase talk about cliche, when good men do nothing, bad and evil flourish.
Hmm.
They do. So if the people being taken off the street are not Jews in Hitler's Germany, but people who don't look like, I don't know, white Americans or whatever that means.
Yeah,
There's not that
yeah.
many white Americans. We're all a hodgepodge and a melting pot. It's what America was. We left England in order to resist the, I don't know, things we didn't like about the way they were taxing us and controlling us. And that was seems so long ago. We were such a young country. We just don't have a historical perspective. And I think the cat analogies that you have in Lessons from Cats for Surviving Fascism is that fascism can't just be survived, it has to be resisted. Now, as you said, most of us don't want to march or certainly don't want to do it in any way that puts us in jeopardy.
Sure.
You throw in the bad actors who sometimes are put there by the regime, whatever the regime is, so that
Yeah.
the whole thing looks violent and ugly. Those people, I think, nowadays are brave. They're actually trying to stand up to other citizens being hauled away, dragged away, hidden away. I think that's awfully courageous. The Holocaust Museum shows that there were Greek Orthodox priests, Catholic priests who hid Jews, who tried to save Jews, who tried to get them out of harm's way, and they were all killed too. I don't think that death is imminent for any of us right now, but how do we know? How do we know where this could go? The cats who stay in a feral colony are safer than the ones who are staying indoors, if you will, and don't have any of that sort of free agency.
Yeah, I think that to slightly lighten the analogy a little bit, you ever see those cats that are all dressed up in like pirate costumes and stuff? It's
Yeah.
cute, but the cats are like, you know what? Once is enough. It's good. Stop that. And I think that one of the things that appealed to me about the cat analogy, and also to clarify lessons from cats for surviving fascism, isn't to be like, I'm cool with fascism and I'm just want to get through it. It's not that. It's about surviving and getting past it. However, I think one of the things that drew me to the cat analogy was the fact that cats operate very independently. Even though they look after each other, they groom each other and all that kind of stuff. And they will defend each other and help each other. However, they are very, for lack of more finesse terms, selfish creatures. And I think that relates very much to current day society, humankind. I think we're very much, especially in the Western world, we're very individualistic and we do things when it affects us. And I think it's a good thing to remind ourselves that we can do actions that will benefit ourselves directly, that will also, thankfully, have an impact for others around us. And that's good. I think it's a really hard sell when you say, everyone do this. Getting people to march is wonderful because I think it follows the first follower theory of the idea of once you see more, when somebody does something, you go, they're crazy. Another person doesn't, you go, oh, maybe it's not that crazy. And then go further and further. I think those people are very brave and it's very wonderful. It's a hard sell to say, hey, listen, I know you're living fine right now. Your job's going good. You've got money. You get to go out on the weekends. It's all good. You get to go on holiday. But would you mind stopping all that and marching for people you don't know? That's a hard sell. That's a hard sell. But if you say, hey, listen, just do this stuff for yourself. And by doing those actions of being aware of being a bit of a disruptor, even if it's just for fun at first, that idea of I'm going to stop the bad guys from having an easy ride, then even if only for my own entertainment, that has a positive effect. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's one of the things that draws me to comedy as well, is that comedy is very much it's a powerful force, and it has thwarted many a tyrant. So I think that it's good to just remind people that they can do things individually for their own enjoyment and for their own well-being and for their own purposes that will have a ripple effect. And that's important to know.
So how does comedy disrupt tyrants? I can't think of any pro-tyrannical comics who do well. I think they all poke holes at tyrants. Is there
Exactly.
anybody who could be celebrated by those who are behind the fascist movement, if you will?
There goes my solid 5 on Mussolini. But
Yeah, I hadn't brought him up yet.
yeah, no, exactly. We know it's all leading there. I think because what it does is comedy does best is it holds up a mirror to
Hmm.
society. And it's very difficult to laugh at what you're in the middle of and to deflate what you're in the middle of because it's hard to
Yes.
see it. If someone stands in the periphery and holds up a mirror to show you where you are, in broader terms, where we all are, then we can point at the mirror and go, whoa, that's ridiculous. That is
Yes.
just the dumbest thing
Yes.
I've ever seen in my life. And it pulls you out of the moment and you hopefully laugh and you hopefully see the silliness of it, the ridiculousness of it. But then that also makes you go, I can't take this serious anymore because this is dumb. This is evidently dumb. So let's change this. Let's change what we're doing. And I think comedy's been great for that. I think that it's Mel Brooks making fun of Hitler. It's all that idea of like
That's
you
a
just
good point.
it's this is there's nothing inherently funny about Hitler.
Right.
However, but Mel Brooks made you laugh at Hitler, which demeans and diminishes and deflates everything that Hitler wanted to be. And I think that's incredibly powerful because if someone is is diminished, if someone is deflated, if someone is brought down a peg or two, it makes you be able to handle them better. You don't get beguiled, you don't get bedazzled, you don't get flummoxed by them, you don't get overwhelmed by them. If you're able to see them just as what they are, flawed, and here's all their terrible flaws, and here's how stupid they are, it's very difficult to take them seriously. There'd be less people would be shouting back at Hitler rallies if they were like, "This guy's a bit of a dork, isn't he? Look at his stupid haircut. What's with the
Yes,
mustache?"
and the mustache has got to go. Not
Yeah,
a good
exactly.
one. He needed
Yeah,
someone to groom him differently. But of course, Mel Brooks wrote that long after Hitler's damage was done. And in our
sure,
modern world, everything's right in our face while it's happening. So you're in the thick of it and you think, I think there's a lot of desire to be an ostrich. Put your head in the sand. This too
sure.
shall pass. Surely the American Constitution, the American way of life will protect us all. And then you see it scattershot attacks on it from all directions, and you still don't know what to do. You think of those people who did Occupy. Remember
Yeah,
Occupy? Did anything come from that? A bunch of people were very mad, as I understood it, at Wall Street and the fact that Wall Street crashed the economy, if you will,
yeah,
with bad mortgages, and then they got bailed out by the
yeah.
then government. So, was that what Occupy was about? This makes no sense. People lost their homes, people got ruined financially, but the banks came out more than whole, and the bank managers made a fortune of money, or presidents. Is that what Occupy was about? Because they did it very peacefully. In the end, it was a gross mess. They were all living,
Hmm.
and they hadn't figured out the logistics of how to live in a park in the middle of New York. But what was that? Is there any relevance? Does that have any relevance to today? And do cats tell us anything about that? Because they do live in colonies, cats do.
They do.
Trying to bring it back to your book. Your
Yeah,
book
no,
is
I appreciate it.
wonderful and it's funny and it's a serious conversation because I feel like I've wimped out and I haven't said anything because it's not my platform, it's not my place. I hardly consider myself clever, but just as an average American, we have to say this is what's happening and hey, what shall we do? It's not like we even have a solution, but we have to call it out. Is that what
I,
Occupy was doing?
I can't speak to the Occupy Wall Street movement specifically, but to me, I feel sometimes when those types of movements are faced with the head in the sand portion of the population, nothing really happens. Everyone's, oh, it's just a
Right.
disruption.
It's
All you're doing
crazy.
is making life harder for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not that great. It's not that bad currently, so I don't want to make it not great. So yeah, I can't speak to that specifically, but I think it would be really powerful is if cats could tell jokes. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think they'd be scathing. I think they would be unpredictable and scathing. I think they would be Norm Macdonald with the political bent. Yeah,
We could take it better from a cat than from a person. And
exactly.
you know what? I put a challenge out to you,
Okay.
Stewart Brittlestar Reynolds. Make a short film for the Cat Film Festival with
Okay.
your voiceover, with
Yeah.
captions, and it would be a cat telling the jokes that a cat would tell at this point in time.
I like that
I would
idea.
welcome that. I'll give you a submission fee waiver. How about that?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
This is
No
being recorded,
submission.
so that's
That's
official.
right. I've said it in public. Anybody out there that wants to make a film about anything going on in society, any society, I have one from Ukraine, Loki, the
Sure.
Ukrainian cat, survive. It's a documentary, actually. It's not the least bit funny. But Loki, the Ukrainian cat, could also be made as a film with commentary, with captions about
Yeah.
the giant absurdity of the world we live in and the illogic and the cruelty and the, hey, somebody blow the whistle, stop these humans.
I think that's really important. The absurdity aspect is really important. As I was saying, I think that what comedy can do is it allows you to release the tension by laughing at the absurdity of something,
Yes.
which then gives you the opportunity to have a clearer view and a more objective view of what's happening, and then you can actually act on it. I think that sometimes one of the difficulties, and I'm not saying they're not important, I think they're very important to have messaging that's serious and spells out exactly what's going on in a very serious tone with no attempts to get some yucks in or anything. However, I think everyone is treading water. Everyone's in the swimming pool of life, and they're all furiously trying to paddle. They're maybe holding up three or four kids. They're trying to not
Right.
sink, and you've got people showing the messages from the side of the pool saying, read this message. It's very serious. You need to
Yes.
do something
So
about it.
important.
And you're
Terrible
like,
things
I
are
can't.
happening.
You're like, I can't. If I pay attention to that, I'm losing one of the kids or I'm
That's right.
drowning or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think what comedy has the ability to do is say, hey, listen, while you're floating there, here's a joke about this.
Yeah.
And you get something out of it. I think that's the trade off that comedy has. Comedy can deliver a message in a way that makes you feel that you've been given something.
You're in on the joke
You're in on the
instead of,
joke.
instead of being
Exactly.
a tsunami of bad news that you're powerless. You feel
Yeah.
completely drowned by the news.
Yeah, and I think that's a common feeling of helplessness from the news. I think
Yes.
there's a lot of, certainly here in Canada, we just recently had an election and all went fairly well, knock wood. And it was still after the election, everyone's, you know what, that's enough. Enough politics for now. I can't take any more of this because, again, everyone's just treading water. Everyone's trying to stay
Yeah.
afloat. And I think the same thing for anywhere else in the world, including the United States, is that idea of it's too easy to get fatigued and too easy to get overwhelmed. And as I was writing the book, I thought to myself, as I was saying, this is just a silly exercise about cats and how much they're jerks and really great resistors. They're nature's fluffy resistors.
Uh,
I know it's pretty good, right? They
yes,
look cool. You can
excellent. I
imagine
was going to
it.
jot that down. Now we're on video. I can't like jot notes.
Just
Fluffy
steal
resist.
it.
No, oh, I'm going to credit you with it, of course.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Fluffy
no,
little
I don't
resistors.
need to be stealing your cleverisms. Your
Oh,
book
that's
is
good.
full of them. I think it's funny but not funny. Hey, let me read this aloud to you kind of a book. Not at all. It's more like read it and think, that's an interesting way of looking at what resistance means.
I
It
appreciate
doesn't
that.
mean a placard. It doesn't mean you have to march. It doesn't mean you have to have arguments with your next door neighbor
Yeah,
or
yeah,
avoid discussing anything with people, which is the way it's felt to me like for quite a long time. Even people you know and love and think they must be like-minded. Either they're like-minded and they're going out of their minds in frustration and fear and rage, or
yeah,
they're not like-minded. And now you're like, oh no, you and I think so differently, and the world's on fire, and nobody's got the fire hose. So the
yes.
thing
And you,
about your book is it just lets you find a way within yourself to think, okay, I'm not just going to lie down and let them roll over me. I'll find a way to be more cat-like.
yeah, and how attractive an offer is it to say that you can become a resistor by having a nap?
I love it.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yes, it's like reverse passivity.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that idea that again, it's easy to be overwhelmed by life in general, never mind life in turbulent political
Right.
times, and it's just so important. And one of the tools in your toolkit is to just turn off for a
A
bit.
cat nap. Mhm.
Yeah, just turn off for a bit, come back recharged. Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if you have this phrase a lot in Canada. It seems to be from a younger generation in America, self-care,
oh
mental
yes,
health moment. I've had people drop out of a business meeting on Zoom
yeah,
kind of close to the time saying, I needed a mental health day. I'm like,
yeah,
you needed what? I come from a generation, just keep on keeping on, stiff upper lip, just keep on doing what you're doing and just the blinders on. What self-care could be reading lessons from cats for surviving fascism and go, okay, I'm gonna try and find my inner cat. Not the
yeah.
worst idea,
Exactly, exactly. I
right?
think and if I jokingly refer to the book as the little book that might save democracy, and
Yes, yes,
it's
I like that.
becoming terrifyingly true.
Terrifyingly true. You've written an amazing book. It is the little book that will save democracy. If everybody reads it and shares it with anyone that they think might get something from it, including children, school age children, obviously don't bother your toddlers with it. Luckily for them, they don't know what's going on. Stewart, you've written a wonderful book, and I love the sensibility behind it. Lessons from Cats for Surviving Fascism. Stewart Brittlestar Reynolds, thank you, and thank you for bringing this conversation to all of us. It's really important, and
Thank,
it's a wonderful book, and I look forward to your film submission. Free
thank
film.
you so much. I have to get to work on it right away
Yes,
now.
you do. Get to work. Great
Thanks,
talking
Tracie.
to you. Take care. Bye bye.